Hi, this is Elena with the SDM Foundation. Today we're going to talk about creating a simple website in WordPress. So to take a step back a minute, what is WordPress? WordPress as a tool is a content management system, otherwise known as a CMS. And a CMS is any tool that allows a user to create and manage digital content without having to know how to code and how to store files and make them available for the internet. So a CMS can be used for many things. WordPress as a CMS is primarily used to build websites. In fact, WordPress powers around 40% of the websites on the open web right now, so it's got a big market share. A very common question is, how much does it cost to make a WordPress website? The answer is you could spend very little or you could spend a lot. You nearly always have to pay for a domain name and a hosting service, and we'll get into what exactly those are in a minute. But everything else you can do for free. It just might cost you some time and administrative overhead. So along the way, there are many paid services you can add to bolster up your website and take some of the administrative burden off yourself, or you can save some money and do things more hands-on. Before we get into a demo of a site, we're going to go into what typical pieces you need to build a website. And by the time we get to our demo, again, this is going to be a very simple site. So there are no e-commerce, like we don't have a shopping cart. We don't have an events calendar, that sort of thing. This was just going to be a landing page for an imaginary bakery by the time we get there. So in order to create a simple landing page, let's see all of the pieces we need to build our site. So the 4 pieces we're going to go over are a domain name, a website host, a website builder, and a theme. The domain name and website host apply to any website. The website builder and theme tend to be more WordPress specific language. First step is your domain name. So some examples of a domain name are google.com, sdmfoundation.org, harvard.edu. This is the actual text address that you put into a URL bar in a browser that says, take me to this website. So there are registered domain registrars, or what they're called, that have the right to sell these sort of addresses on the internet. GoDaddy and Namecheap are some of the more commonly known ones. There are lots of them out there. And some services, actually a lot of services, will offer you a domain name in addition to their service, like Squarespace and Wix are website builders, and they'll say, if you build a website through us, you get a free domain name for a year. So they are handling the transaction with a registered domain registrar in the back end. But those type of things will try and sort of bundle that into their services. The next piece we need is a website host. This means who is going to host the code of your website and make it available to the general internet. It's a little bit more complex when it comes to WordPress because there's actual site hosting and then there's WordPress software on top of the regular site hosting duties. So when a solution is called self-hosted, it doesn't actually mean that you are running your own server at home. It means that there's a service out there that will host a WordPress site happily, but they won't do a lot of the WordPress specific maintenance and administration and software updates. That would be on the user to go into their WordPress dashboard and manage that themselves. The next level of hosting might be called managed WordPress hosting, which will cover some level of WordPress specific software and plugin updates on top of normal site hosting duties. WordPress.com is kind of the only provider who will do a full service WordPress hosting when they talk about it, but the level of service depends on the provider and depends on the level you're paying for. Some providers will say, will tell you that an update is available or tell you that an update has been applied, but won't test your site before publishing it. So if an update to one of your plugins breaks your website, you won't know about it until it's live unless you pay for a higher level of service. So a little bit complex in there, but essentially there's site hosting. The basic site hosting is generally called self-hosting. And then if you want some help with the WordPress specific software updates and admin maintenance on top of that, then there's managed WordPress hosting in different levels. The next piece of your website is called the website builder. And the builder is for people who are not actually putting code into their website. These are like the building blocks of your website. And different website builders have a different look and feel to them and provide different options for pre-built things to help you build a website without having to code. As an analogy, just do you want to build your website out of Legos or do you want to build them out of, red bricks, like red building bricks? Once you pick what you want to build your website out of, it can be really hard to transfer from one to the other. So a common, like a popular builder is called Elementor, and it has some really good free features. It has some really good paid features. But if you decide later that you don't want your site built with Elementor and you want to use a different builder, it's going to be really hard to transfer, and you may have to just start building your website all over again. This is especially true for something like a Wix website or a Squarespace website, where that is not necessarily a WordPress website, but you're building in their ecosystem and you can't easily transfer it outside of that ecosystem. So for today's demo, we are using the default WordPress builder called Gutenberg, or like the block editor is also what it's called. And we're doing that for a reason, that it makes it a little bit more transferable if we don't add another layer of complex builder on top of it. It makes it more transferable from one ecosystem to another. And the last piece is called your website theme. A theme is a name given for a set of design choices for your website. So should a title, like what kind of font should the title headline have, and what color should all your buttons be, and should they have rounded corners? These are things that you don't want to keep making the decisions on over and over and over again. You just want to say, like, all my buttons are going to look like this. My layouts are going to look in general like this. I have certain colors, certain imagery, certain fonts. And so these are things that can be sort of pre-coded into what's called a theme. All modern themes should be what's called responsive, which means it goes from a big desktop computer size to a small smartphone size, and it rearranges itself accordingly and doesn't look bad when it goes from a big size to a small size. So there are, I think, over 13,000 free themes on WordPress.org that are available for you to start using. We're going to use one of the free themes today in our demo, but there are also, you can pay for someone to give you a custom theme, or you can pay for a more premium theme that has cooler elements to it. There's a lot of choices out there, but basically this set of design choices comes in a package and makes it so that you don't have to make this decision over and over again while you're just trying to add a button to your page.
Right, let's get started with our demo. For today, we're going to keep things super simple. We're going to do a straightforward website, few landing pages, nothing complicated, no e-commerce or calendars added in there, just a simple landing page, homepage, and potentially a couple of other pages, see how much we've got time for. We are going to use WordPress.com as our host. With them, we can have a test URL, essentially a free URL to get us up and running for today. And that's something that you can also do when you're starting out to try things before you pay for anything. We'll be using the default WordPress builder, which is called Gutenberg, or the block editor. And we're also going to use the most current default free WordPress theme, which is currently 2025. Here we are at the SDM WordPress.com account. When you first go to WordPress.com, you are going to see slightly different screens here while you set up your account. But once you do, the first thing you want to do is add a new site. So we're going to do that. We're going to choose WordPress.com. And then we are going to go and choose a name for our site. And we're going to see if SDM example site is available. It is indeed. So we are going to scroll until we see SDM example site.wordpress.com, and we're going to select this for now because it's free. And we select, and then we're going to hit continue. It's immediately going to ask us if we want to upgrade, which if we wanted to add our own vanity URL, we would need to upgrade to do that. But as we, for today, are just setting up a free site and showing you the basics, we're going to start with free. And then here we are in our WordPress dashboard. When you first go to your WordPress admin dashboard, this is what you're going to see. Because this is a new site, you can see here we've got the option of launching it. So right now there's a coming soon page on it. And there's a list of things that we might want to do in order to get our site launched. Down on the left-hand side of our screen here is a lot of menu options. And we will come back to some of those. But the first thing we are going to do is give our site a name. Now, as you might be able to tell because it's already ticked, I have already done a quick run through of these steps. So we're going to set the site title. It's here in general settings. And we are going to call it Delicious Bakery because we're going to build a very simple site for a bakery today. And our tagline is going to be cookies galore. Now, the other things that we can set here that are site-wide settings, we can choose a site icon, which is what you see in your browser tabs. Add a site logo. We want to check that we've got the right time zone, that the date format is how we want it, time format's how we want it. And then we need to make sure that we save changes. Now, this is a little tip. The save changes or update button is often right down at the bottom of some of these screens and it's easily missed. But we generally, when we make changes, we need to save the changes somewhere on that page. So always look out for the blue buttons to save changes. So we're going to hit save changes on that. And now our site title is Delicious Bakery with a cookies galore tagline, and we will see how that populates through the site as we continue on with this demo. Right, so here we are back in our dashboard. I'm only going to touch on a few of the options in this left-hand panel today because there's an awful lot that we could go into, but I want to focus primarily here in appearance, in themes, and in the editor where we'll actually build the first couple of pages of our website. But the ones that I want to point out are posts. This is blog posts in the traditional sense of a blog. Posts are for time-based content, updates, news, storytelling. Our media library is where every image or file that we upload into the site will be stored, which allows us to access them and use them in multiple locations across the site, but only upload them once. Our pages are for our more static content. So our home page, our about page, a contact page. In this case, it's a bakery, so perhaps a menu page. Our pages is where we're going to focus today.
But first, we are going to choose a theme for our site. Now, we've already mentioned that the theme controls the styling of the site. So things like the fonts, the colors, the button design, things like that are contained within the theme. And each theme is different and each theme has different things that you can customize. And we're going to choose one of the default WordPress themes for today to keep things simple. So we go to Appearance, we go to Themes, and there are lots of free themes that you can get in WordPress.com. So have a poke around. They are all editable to greater and lesser extents depending on the theme that you choose. So for today, we are going to stick with the 2025 WordPress theme. Every year, WordPress releases a new theme for the year, a new default theme, and it's always named the year. So for today, we're just going to use the 2025 theme. You can see here there are some information about the site. In here we have patterns, we have section patterns, we have full page templates. So there's a lot of stuff that we can access in this that will help us build the site much faster. And I am going to activate that. And then I am going to hit customize, and that is going to take me into the editor. And here we are in the editor. Give you a quick tour of this. You will always see your home page here when you go into the editor. The other options in here that we can edit are our navigation. This is where our menus live. Styles, which is things like our fonts and colors. Pages, you'll remember that there is a location to access your pages in the main admin dashboard. But once you're in the editor, it's easier to just edit your pages from in here, or at least select them from in here instead, so you just stay in the editor. Our templates are the theme templates. So those are the page templates that the theme comes with. It's things like pages with titles, pages without titles, blog home pages, archive pages for categories, etc. And then we have patterns, and these are pieces of pages. So where the templates have whole page layouts, patterns are pieces that you can insert into a page that have pre-made block layouts to make building the pages faster for you. So think things like team information or a contact form or location blocks that showing maps plus address, things like that. There'll be patterns for those things. Makes building the site much faster. The first thing we're going to take a look at is our templates. So if we head into templates, these are the templates that the theme comes with. So we have an archive page template, the blog home, index, search results, single posts, a 404, pages, page with no title. Now you'll note here that we have a blog homepage here. So this theme assumes that you have a blog and that you want your latest posts to appear on the front page. But for a business, it's more likely that you want to have a static homepage that shows high-level information about your website, not any blog posts that you might have published. So because this theme defaults to a blog homepage, we are going to add a template, and it's called a front page template. And this will override the blog homepage, and it will replace the homepage of the site. Now, it's giving us some options of some patterns that we could use for this page, but for today, I'm going to not choose one of them. I'm just going to start from a blank template so that I can show you a little bit more about how the site's homepage might look. Right, because we overrode the blog home template on this with a new front page template, we have to do a couple of extra steps here that we won't have to do on any of the other pages on the site. And that is add a header and a footer so that this template knows what it's showing when it displays the page. So wherever you see this plus sign, this is where we add blocks. And I am going to search for header. Now it's purple, this icon, because it's a template part. So it's pulling something that came with the template, and it means that it will match all the other pages on the site. So we're going to pull header. And it has our site title there. You see here, this is block type called site title. Remember when we set this in the general settings and I told you that it would appear in other locations automatically? This is one of them. And this here is navigation. This is our menu. Okay, now we are going to then add another block after this, and a quick way to do that is click that block and add after. And we're going to add what we call a cover image at the top here. You'll sometimes hear these referred to as hero images. This is where we have a big image as the first thing that we see on the site, but by using what WordPress calls a cover image, we can add text over the top of it. We could upload an image if we already had a photograph of our bakery, but as we don't, I'm going to use select media here, and I'm going to go to the Pexels free photos. So these are royalty-free images that we can use on our sites without the need for attribution. So I am going to search for bakery, and I get lots of things with yummy treats on them, and I am going to pick one that I think will look nice. I'm going to choose this one because that's lots of colourful cakes, and I'm going to select that. Now, because it's a cover image, it expects a couple of things, and one of those is that I'm going to write over it. It also has an overlay on it. So if we look at our cover image block here, it has an overlay. everything, all the settings for every block type that we're in is over here on the right hand side. And we can change quite a few things. We can change the location, the focal point on the image. And we can do some things with the styling. One of that is the color of the overlay. It often defaults to a color that's in the image, but you might want to experiment with other colors. They give a very different feel to the site. I'm going to stick with black there because I quite like it. I think it makes the images look really sharp. And we can also change the opacity of that. I'm going to stick with the 50% that it was defaulting to there. Okay, then we come into this, and this is a paragraph. See, the block type here is a paragraph, and we can see over here on the right hand side again, we know this is a paragraph. Most blocks will default to paragraph unless we add anything else into them, whether it's a heading or a button or any other block or an image. So here I'm going to say, welcome to Delicious Bakery. Okay, and that's a little small, I think. So I'm going to make it a bit bigger. And in my styling over here, I'm going to click my three dots. Always click the three dots. There's always things hidden in there. In this case, I'm going to choose appearance because I want to make that a bit bolder. Okay, I'm going to go for black there. Okay, which is quite a heavy bold on it. I could also change the font in there. I could change the letter spacing. There's lots of things that I could do in there in the styling of the typography. And then I am going to, now I can either go in here and hit plus to get another block, or because this is a typing block, like text block, I can hit enter just like I would if I was editing any other kind of text. And again, I get my choose block. And this time I'm going to show you that, like the site title appears, the tagline that we set earlier in general settings is actually now a block type. So I can select the tagline. I'm going to make it centered like the rest, and I'm going to come over here, and again I'm going to look at the font size, and I'm going to make that a bit bigger. Okay, so that's our site tagline, that's our site title, that's our menu. All these are elements that will appear, that we can set globally and then drop anywhere that we want to. So that's the start of our homepage. Now, we might want some more information on here. And for today, the thing I'm going to do is I am going to add in here a button. Okay, so here is buttons. And I am going to link to our menu, and then we're going to go create a menu page. So again, I'm in my buttons here. I would like to center that button called menu. I don't have a link yet because that page doesn't exist. So we would come back and add the link into that button once we've built the page.
So the last thing I'm going to do on this page, because it's the template, is add the footer. So again, I'm going to click into this cover image block because I want the footer to go below that. I'm going to use my three dots and I'm going to add after, and then hit my plus sign here, and we're going to type in footer, and I am going to add in a footer. Now this one is probably not, the one it defaulted to is probably not really the one I want. So I'm going to see if there's a footer that is more appropriate over here that maybe just has our address. There we go. It has a phone number on it, that one. Let's see if there's one that has our location, because really we want to be able to tell people. There we go. That's a good one. It's going to have our address, our website, and our hours and our social links. That's perfect for this site. So I'm going to hit save over here. I'm saving the front page template and the template part, the footer. I'm going to save that. And now that I've done that, we can use this icon here to view the page, and we're going to and here is our homepage, our header, our hero image, and our footer, and we are good to go. So now we're back in our editor homepage, and we are going to add that menu page. So we click on pages, and then here we can see this about page, which is a default page that always gets added so that you have a page in a post already there to edit. But we're going to add a page right now, and we are going to call it menu, and we're going to create a draft of that page. And here we are. So again, I'm not going to choose a pattern from there, but I am going to add a block or a pattern. We're going to go take a look. So I'm assuming that this theme probably has a menu pattern that we can insert in so that we don't have to build it from scratch. So I'm going to go here into the blocks, and I'm actually going to go into patterns, and I'm going to search for a menu. And here we go. We have patterns for menus. I'm going to pick a nice simple one. This should be good for a bakery with lots of pastries, etc. So I'm going to select that block, and it inserts it into the page. Close that section off, and here we have a menu. Now, obviously, you would edit this menu then to include your items. So for each element, we can go in and edit that. So we're going to put a croissant in there. We're going to put muffin in there, but we already have it nicely formatted and we are not having to design it from scratch. So there's our menu. And so that I can show you how to insert the link onto the homepage, I am now going to publish that page because we can only add links to live pages. And then we are going to exit that page. And if we come back into our edit screen, we can click on our homepage from there to go directly into editing it. And then we're going to click into this button for the menu. And now we're going to go into the link icon and we're going to search. Because we've just added a page called menu, we can just do a quick search for it, add the menu page, and there we go. That link is in there now. And if we save that, then that link is now set and we can access our menu from there. Now I'm going to come out of pages there and I'm going to just show you the menu here. Currently, the default action for navigation is to add every new page to the menu. But you can actually edit the menus to have whatever you want in them. So if you want drop downs, if you want to add a button into the menu, all of that's possible. And there we have it. We have a homepage and we have our bakery menu, not to be confused with our navigation menu. So now we're able to click the link in our navigation to get to our menu page. We can head back to our homepage by clicking the site title, and we can use the button on the page to also access our menu page. Very quick, very easy. In 15-20 minutes, we have a homepage and we have the all-important bakery menu page.
So what's next? How do we get started? If you want to replicate what we did in our demo today, you can go to wordpress.com, sign up for a free account, and begin exploring. We have to caveat again that today's demo was very, very simple. So if I knew that my bakery was going to have an online ordering system or a calendar of events inside the bake shop, then that would change where I would want to start building, because the functionality and probably the price of what I was looking to do would start to become more complex. And this is why we encourage everybody who's thinking about building a website to come in with an idea, a broad overall idea of where you think your website might go in the future, what you want for it, what your goals are, because that could change which provider, which starting point is best for you. Because once you get into website building, you can accomplish nearly anything you want to do. And the thought of that can be a little overwhelming. So, what are the goals for your specific website, your specific business? Who are you trying to reach? And what does your audience need to see on your site? What do they need to know? And what do they need access to on your website? And once you think that through, then picking a provider becomes a little bit easier. And if you ever want to talk to somebody about that process, if you're not sure where to start, feel free to call or email, make an appointment with SDM, and we're happy to help you talk through options depending on what your needs are. So to sum it all up, WordPress itself is a content management system that is used primarily to create over 40% of the websites on the web today. WordPress is a great place to get started with building a website. You can do it as cheaply as just purchasing a domain name and a hosting service, but the rest can be done on a budget, or you can spend as much money as you want for as much help as you want and as much feature-rich content as you want. Before you get started, try and have an idea of what you want to build and where you want your website to go and what kind of function you want it to serve. And that will help you choose the right tools up front and avoid some overwhelm.